fear of the machine stems back to the Industrial Revolution, a time when engineering and technology was beginning to replace the humble worker. It was this fear that would inspire many of the early sci-fi screenwriters and created some of the most iconic characters in cinema. Over time, the automaton has mostly been presented in a lighthearted fashion, but not today. Today I'll be looking at the very best cinematic examples of heel mechanisms. This is the Top 10 Killer Machines. For this list, I'll be looking at the very best antagonistic automatons in alternate cinema. Joining me this week, may I introduce Mr. Mitch Patterson.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike. Like he said, I'm Mitch Patterson from the channel Screamin' Shark, where I have a couple of shows like Pros Before Cons and Tastes and Terror. Killer machines, robots, cyborgs, and what have you all work perfectly within the horror genre solely because they have so much over us. They can be unstoppable, so hard to destroy, all because of the fact that we made them that way. There are only going to be two things that we are going to be considering when ranking these murderous machines, and it's right there in the name. They have to be any kind of bot or machine that takes part in killing. It's that simple. Sorry, Johnny 5. Despite getting a badass look at the end of Short Circuit 2, you didn't make the cut. With that out of the way, let's begin, Mike.
Number 10. Based on the Philip K. Dick short story Second Variety, starring Peter Weller, Screamers follows Colonel Hendrickson as he travels an alien wasteland. Under the planet's surface lies a military weapon, the autonomous robot swords, or Screamers. In a state of war, the Screamers were designed to kill any and all enemies. Over time, the weapons evolved and became efficient human predators. Perhaps one of the best-known hidden gem movies in the 90s, this low-budget character feature proved that money does not make the movie.
How did I go for so long without hearing about this movie? One of the best 90s B movies I have seen so far, from its likable cast to decent enough special effects. The best part of the movie by far are the Screamers, which start out as these phantasm balls that travel under the ground much like graboids and can cut people to shreds with their super sharp saw blades. It gets pretty graphic, but nothing wrong with that at all. Somehow they upgrade into animal-like robots and even small children. Talk about creepy. This does result in some good twists and turns throughout the movie that I just didn't see coming. Gets to the point where we as the audience and the characters don't trust anybody. Who's who? Are you man or machine? It's much in line with The Thing, and I like it.
Number 9. Earth is dying and a team is sent to Mars to scout locations for a new home. Aided by the reconnaissance droid Amy, the team search for a suitable location for colonization. Accidentally switched to military mode, with its advanced weaponry and agility, Amy recognizes the team as hostile and attempts to dispatch them. Alone on an alien planet with little hope for escape, the crew must survive the onslaught of Amy, or face returning home to a doomed Earth.
At first I thought Amy was going to be a lot like HAL 9000 with her compact shape and camera lens eye. That's until she's activated and she unfolds into a dog-like stance. That's when I thought to myself, ooh, I can't wait to see her in action. Despite only killing one person in the movie, she still can be very intimidating. Amy is able to utilize stealth and drones to sneak up on and surprise her enemies. She can also be a total jerk because through the use of X-rays, she can target specific points in the body to attack, like a single rib. Amy is one dangerous tactical piece of equipment that I would hate to be stuck on Mars with.
Number 8. When all of Earth's machinery is awakened by a passing comet, a group of survivors barricade themselves at the Dixie Boy gas station. In the plethora of homicidal appliances and machines that the movie hosts, none is more iconic than the Happy Toys Green Goblin truck. Approved by Marvel, the 18-wheeler would serve as figurehead for the sentient vehicles. Always leading any attack, the Goblin became the face of the enemy. Written and directed by Stephen King, the wonderfully campy Maximum Overdrive became a highly regarded guilty pleasure movie for its sense of humor, unapologetic kills, and excellent AC/DC soundtrack.
Oh, Maximum Overdrive. So stupid, but yet so hardcore at the same time. That truck bearing the Green Goblin's face is without a doubt the poster child for this movie. It's so ridiculous looking, but imagine that thing heading right for you at the dead of night and tell me that's not scary. He shouldn't get all the credit though. There's also a killer vending machine, arcade cabinet, and a machine gun turret that randomly wheels by and really knocks up the body count. But none can forget that the best kill in this movie has to go to the steamroller that demolishes that innocent boy. By far not my favorite Stephen King movie, but I cannot deny its inclusion on this list.
Number 7. In a post-apocalyptic future where spare parts have become a commodity, a rare robotic head is discovered. Reactivated, the head uses scrap metal and junk to build itself a new body. Unbeknown to the owner Jill, Mark XIII was a defective military weapon. Designed to kill and with the ability to self-repair, the machine goes on a murderous rampage. Mostly set in a single apartment, the low-budget sci-fi slasher showcases some incredible practical effects for 1990. Hardware is a criminally overlooked New Age B-movie.
You said it right there, Mike. This movie should be a classic that everybody remembers, much like Terminator. It's a gorgeous looking and sounding film that doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. Mark XIII is one of those killer robots that is scary. Not only because it can rebuild itself from the ground up, but also the way that the practical effects were achieved and filmed. The animatronics are amazing when considering the time and budget. It's ultimately the cinematography and lighting that really adds to the visual horror of Mark XIII. Also, can't forget to mention its brutality when it comes to the kills. Yikes. I would hate to find that thing in my shower.
Number 6. In Stephen King's second entry comes Christine, a tale of a sentient 58 Plymouth Fury with a thirst for blood. Purchased by Arnie Cunningham, he restores the car to her former glory and undergoes a psychological transformation. Becoming progressively more arrogant, Christine takes a life of her own that reflects Arnold's new personality. Serving as an extension of his psyche, the seemingly indestructible Christine develops her own homicidal character. Directed by John Carpenter, Christine remains one of King's most favored adaptations.
The red 58 Plymouth has become such an icon of horror that whenever I see any 50s looking red car, I instantly think it's possessed. The relationship between Arnie and Christine becomes so intimate and so convincing that at first you start to think maybe it's just Arnie behind the wheel killing off anybody who comes between the two. But come on, we all know she's alive, and the many different ways that they achieve this visual is outstanding. The crown jewel of the movie would either have to be when Christine repairs herself, done through reversing the film, or when she forces herself into a tight space just to kill Moochie. This could have been so silly, but with Carpenter behind the wheel of this movie, Christine is scary, but yet so intriguing at the same time.
Number 5. The reason for Hal's low placement is only due to his lack of automation. Seen as more of a program and less of a machine, Hal's sentience made for some truly terrifying concepts. Voiced by Douglas Rain, Hal's intimidation comes from its infallible intelligence and ability to learn. Searching for an ancient monolith that will grant a leap in evolution, the movie becomes a tense battle of psyche against man and machine. Written by Arthur C. Clarke and directed by Stanley Kubrick, 2001 received major academic recognition and is considered a masterpiece of cinema.
The scary thing about HAL 9000 is that he's almost a real thing with Alexis and Google Home. He was designed to appear more human, which opens the door to lies and manipulation, which allows HAL to play around with the main characters and makes it so hard to judge him with that classy, monotone voice, which contrasts so well to his actions. It's even harder for them to challenge HAL since he's everywhere on that ship, basically controlling it. My only gripe with HAL is that he doesn't really put up a good fight against Dave at the end. Like, come on, with the whole ship at disposal, there's no excuse. But at least he got one good kill under his belt. That and everything else is enough to place him on this list.
Number 4. Featuring some of the most creative and imaginative creature designs ever put to screen, Virus was sadly let down by its poor writing and characters. Discovering an abandoned science vessel, the team of the Sea Star see an opportunity to claim the ship under maritime law. When exploring the vessel, they find themselves under attack from sentient machines, some combining the former crew. Finding their tugboat destroyed, the crew fight to stay alive as the sentients try to absorb them into their own collective. Despite its poor reviews, Virus has some of the most amazing practical effects of the 1990s.
The overall movie is decent, nothing amazing, but it makes up for it with its animatronic killing machines. This thing builds itself in an army of highly detailed and articulated robots to wipe out Earth's virus. Us. The little spider robots are cool, but when you see the first full-size robot made from spare parts and human flesh, is disturbing. The final boss is fantastic looking, achieved through some really impressive puppetry and very subtle CGI. It's very similar to hardware. Robots made from a bunch of hydraulics and wires killing people. Don't let that take away from the amazing effects and the brutality that these killing machines have to offer.
Number 3. This underappreciated sequel sees RoboCop taking on the drug lord Kane, leader of his own nuke cult, an addict of his own product. Played by Tom Noonan, upon Kane's death, his neural organs remain intact and is seen as the perfect candidate for a new cyborg project, a candidate they believe can be manipulated and controlled by the nuke drug. Kane's new body is an armored battle tank, equipped with an arsenal of killing tools that he uses to devastating effect. Breaking his programming, Kane goes on a rampage that is seemingly unstoppable. Bringing Kane to the screen required a hybrid of effects to create. Everything from stop motion to early CGI made Kane the highlight of the movie.
Myself, I'm not too fond of RoboCop 2, but I love Kane just as much as Ed 209 and RoboCop himself. This machine with the brain of a criminal is the best part of the movie by far, all done through the amazing stop-motion animation provided by Phil Tippett. The design is just so unique, from the tiny little legs up that massive weaponized body all the way to that hammer head. The highlights of this movie all include Kane, starting off when he guns down some of Detroit's baddies and political figures, and of course his final fight with RoboCop, which goes on for a pretty long time, but I'm not complaining. I think he's a perfect choice for the number 3 killing machine.
Number 2. Possibly the most iconic of the 50s B-movie antagonists, Gort is the servant of Klaatu, an alien ambassador who arrives to Earth to force peace into mankind. Played by the 7'7" tall Luck Martin, the incredibly imposing Gort was designed to eradicate any aggressor. Armed with a death ray built into the visor, the droid is referred to as Interstellar Police Force to preserve the peace. Despite the intentions of his mission, Gort's intimidating presence was enough to make the Earth stand still. Serving as an interesting commentary on society, The Day the Earth Stood Still is a well-earned classic.
Gort is one of the most iconic robots, not just from the classic sci-fi era, but all of cinema together. I don't know if I entirely agree with having him here among this list of murderous machines. Gort only kills 2 people in the movie, and they're both at the same time. When threatened, his visor will slowly rise up, and he can make anything disappear, including people. But you see, it's all for keeping the peace, because back on its planet, Gort, along with many others, were built to be policemen. I still can't deny his importance in the genre of sci-fi, and since he did technically kill 2 people, that would make him a killer machine.
Number 1. It's often forgotten that the Terminator began life as a sci-fi slasher. What evolved into a sci-fi juggernaut was originally compared to Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. Traveling from the future to terminate the mother of the leader of the Resistance, the original T-800 was the ultimate killing machine. Although the T-1000 was the more efficient Terminator, it was the original T-800 that created the greatest fear. Played by the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, the original Terminator brought a new dimension to horror with outstanding action, incredible storyline, and revolutionary effects. Created by the legendary Stan Winston, the T-800 stands tall as the greatest killing machine of all time.
The T-800 is maybe the only movie robot that legit scared me. An unstoppable, intelligent piece of hardware specifically designed to kill a target and stop it at nothing to do so. That's scary. The visual of the T-800 is scary. After when all the skin and tissue is burned away, it rises back up only as its endoskeleton, which was done through Stan Winston's puppetry and Doug Beswick's stop motion. People say that the stop motion looks bad and too jerky, but I would argue that it only adds to the creepiness of the Terminator at the end of the movie. Can't go on without mentioning Arnold's performance. His acting was so machine-like and so effective that it makes me believe that endoskeleton that we see at the end of the movie was truly underneath Arnold's skin the whole time. The T-800 and the movie itself were so effective that I made up plans for just in case if a Terminator came back in time to kill me. That's how much the movie freaked me out the first time I watched it.
So there was my list. Were there any I missed? Which killer machines do you love the most? Leave a comment below, and a huge thank you to Screaming Shark for featuring in this episode. Be sure to check out his channel in the link below.
It's sad to see my boys, the Killbots from Chop 'Em All, not make the list. Honorable mentions does not do them justice. But forget about that, this is a pretty great list, Mike. It was a pleasure to be able to come on the show, talk about cinema's greatest killer machines, and actually watching some of these movies for the first time, like Screamers and Virus. I actually really liked those movies. Be sure to check out my channel, Screaming Shark, where I take a look at movies, especially horror, like in Pros Before Cons, the show where I take a bad movie and try to say good things about it. Thanks for having me, Mike. It was a blast, and hopefully our species is never wiped out by technology.
This is Mike from Demented Pictures. May your movies be bloody and your scares be shitless.